Hello, I love playing tennis and I also like DIY. So I combined both these interests together and made my own racket stringing machine. I recently saw a drop weight racket stringing machine, and I thought it's pretty easy to make my own machine. So I set up on doing it so that I can string my own rackets using my own machine. That's the whole fun of doing yourself. So I'm going to show you how the final product will look like so that you can easily work towards achieving that final product. I didn't have that luxury, so it has taken me at least a couple of weeks to figure out how to use all the materials I have at home and then make this machine. The whole DIY is to use and repurpose all the things we have at home and then making something useful for yourself. I've used wood as the main material, mostly because it's easily available and you can easily work with wood. It is easy to cut, it is easy to drill wood, and it's also very strong and it doesn't bend. It's quite rigid, and that's what we need for this machine. So I will start by showing you the final product and slowly explain to you each component and how to build each of the components. This is the racket stringing machine in its final form, and I'll slowly take you through each of the components and how to make each component and assemble together. So any racket stringing machine will have two main components. One is a frame to hold the racket, and the purpose of that frame is to hold the racket frame firmly so that it doesn't change its shape while you are stringing the racket. This is the racket holding mechanism. And then the second component is the string tightening component. So this helps in tightening this string of the racket to the desired tension of the string. So this is a fairly simple component, and what I have done is I have taken a strong piece of wood and then cut it, and then this is roughly about 15 inches, as you can see, and it can always be plus or minus a few. And what I have done is I have drilled a hole in the center here, and then I have fixed taken a nut and bolt and then fixed it to the main frame. From the same piece of wood, as you can see, I have cut two smaller bars, so which is about roughly 6.5 to 7 inches. So this is required to hold the racket between these two frames. So I have drilled a hole here in the center and one hole for this in the center, and then towards the end at the bottom piece I have drilled a hole which is about 1 inch away from the edge, and then that hole will go as the main reference point. And then I have taken my existing racket and then measured it from the inside of the racket frame to the other end of the racket, other end of the racket frame. Then I marked it, and then I drilled another hole there, and then I put a nut and bolt and tightened the racket frame to this. So I am having one racket now. So if I have got another Yonex racket. So if the same distance between the holes to the inside of the racket frames is not sufficient, then I can probably keep one hole as constant, and then in the second one I will again put my racket here and measure it and then drill another hole. Or if that second hole is too close to it and it may damage this first hole you have drilled for your main racket, you can probably drill another two sets of holes separately away from the original holes. That way you can use the same stringing machine for all the rackets you have. So this is fairly simple mechanism, and from here I'm going to show you, this is the second component. This is little more difficult to make, but you can still make it fairly easily. So this I'm going to disassemble. This is my drop weight, and this is a dumbbell for 2 kilos of dumbbell. So what I'm going to do, I can easily remove each of it. So this is the mechanism which holds the string and tightens the string, and I will show you how to make this component. This is how it looks. I can easily remove each part separately. I'm removing this one, and then this is how it looks. So these are all the components, and here these are L brackets. I already had them at home. You can easily get it in a hardware shop. And then I had to drill, there was already a hole, so this one I had to increase the size of the hole to 8 millimeters to accommodate this. So this is the main part, and this one is actually called an Allen key or hex key, it's also called, and this is an 8 mm hex key. And what I have done is I have taken a piece of wood, this one, and then I have cut it into a round shape. So how I have done that is I used a tool called this is lock fixing tool. So this is used for fixing the locks to the main doors. So what it does is when you attach it to a drill, it does make a big round hole in the door. They use that to insert the lock mechanism, but in our case we are using it to cut the wood into a round coin like shape. So you can see here, this is the wood I have used, and then I have used this drill like this to take out a round piece out of this wood, and then it will naturally leave a see, this is how it will cut the wood, but this is not the same piece, this is some other piece. So it will cut the wood like this, and then there is already a hole in the middle because of this bit. And then I have increased the size of this hole to accommodate this 8 mm Allen key. So I have drilled this also to about 7 mm so that it can go in tightly. And once I increase the size of this hole, I have slowly pushed it inside so that it sits tightly till the end. Then I have drilled another round piece for the second part of this one, and then from the, if I assume this is this in its original form, so from here to here I have cut taking a saw so that it comes into a shape like this, and then I mounted this part, this piece number 2 onto the piece number 1, and then I drilled 2 small holes here and then used a wooden screws to fix it. I try to use only wooden screws because that's what it's meant for. And then as a next step, I have cut another horizontally across, just above this one, and then I have also drilled a little larger hole here, and then put another screw here, a loosely fitting screw, so that this can go up and down when required. So this is how this whole mechanism will look like. And then the purpose of this slit is that when the string goes over this one and comes down here, and then it goes in between these two pieces of wood, so when you tighten it, the string pushes this wood down so that the string doesn't slip out and go away. So that's the purpose of this design. And then you can easily assemble it like this. This goes here. The second most important part is, this is called a ratchet spanner. The way it works is it goes only in one direction. So the purpose of that is that it should not, as you keep tightening it, it should not go away, go back like this. So it goes into the one direction. So you need to assemble it in such a way that the direction is always, it will always rotate in this way, but it will go freely in this way. So here this component goes. Here you can see this is wrong side because it is freely going this way. So I need to turn it around and put it. So now it rotates like this, but freely goes like this. Rotates like this, but freely goes like this. And this is the only thing I actually purchased. Most of it were all other components. I have sourced it right at home. Then I also found this small piece of aluminum tubing. So I just used it to as a gap filler, so that this thing doesn't move everywhere, so it just stays in one place. And then once I you just have to let it come out the other side.